Hello all, welcome back to my page. I'm Jane Rodriguez, and I hope you guys had a lovely Easter. I know I did. I spent all day outside with my family after going to church. My cousins came by, and the girls played, and the boys played. It was just a really nice day. It was also like 75 degrees, which is pretty warm for northern Illinois, living right on the border of Wisconsin for this time of year, so that was awesome. We got a head start on spring, so all the leaves are blooming, and it's another really gorgeous day. So I hope you guys had a really nice Easter and got to spend some time with your family. My last video was the day before Easter. Today is the day after Easter, and I was sharing an encounter that this man named Jack Solomon had written to me from the UK. It's pretty interesting encounter, written very well. He has a real nice knack for writing descriptively, and it's pretty interesting. So I read part one, or the first story, and now, as promised, I'm going to deliver the second story. And here it goes. I'm going to read it to you. Second werewolf encounter. Just a few months after that, I teamed up with a keyboard player who lived in Somerleyton, a village located a few miles downriver, or in my case 10 minutes by train, getting off at the first stop heading west towards the city of Norwich. Somerleyton is remote by anyone's standards. It's a tiny village with one marvelous little country pub, the Duke's Head, that looks today exactly as it did way back then. It's a huge stately manor known as Somerleyton Hall, complete with its own resident aristocrat. It's old world England, a village out of time, set slap in the middle of nowhere on the banks of the river Waveney. I have to admit, if a filmmaker were actually looking for a place to locate a werewolf movie, he or she may feel they had just found it. The new band seemed to have a real kick to it, and we were rehearsing out there several nights a week. We would usually catch last orders at the pub, and after a sandwich and a swift half a beer, I would make my way along a myriad of unlit country lanes back to Somerleyton railway station and await the late night train from Norwich, which usually pulled in around midnight. That particular night, I somehow lost track of time amid the usual chit-chat until one of my bandmates pointed out it was getting late and that if I didn't hurry, I would miss that last train. So it was after dark. That walk would normally take around 10 or 15 minutes, but a quick glance up at the clock showed I'd barely 5. I grabbed my jacket and ran out to the moonless night. So it's 5 minutes, something that would take 10 or 15 minutes normally. Pretty common when dealing with the otherworldly. Doesn't matter again if it's flesh and blood, it still can have gifts, abilities, powers over gravity and physical time and space that we're just not used to. We would dub paranormal. Anyway, getting back to the email, the intensity of the darkness took me back a little. There were very few streetlights in this village, and none at all in the direction I was headed, not until you actually got to the station itself. But they were no help from there. The place was completely enshrouded by trees and tall hedges, so you couldn't even use it as a beacon to guide you. It was starting to look impossible for a second, and I wondered if it might be better to stay over and make my way the next day. I would very soon come to wish I had done. But as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I decided I knew the area well enough to give it a shot. And instead of swinging around by the road, as I normally would have done, I went straight out the bottom of the pub car park and set out across the country. But as the pub lights faded behind me, I found myself traveling deeper into pitch black, and I felt it again. That same unmistakable sense that something was with me. Except this time, there were no lights of any kind, flickering or otherwise. No roads, no family home, just ahead, no shotgun. I was alone, immersed in total darkness, and I could hear again that same gut-wrenching growl. I wanted to turn and run back towards the pub, but that's where the growling was coming from. The thing was already between me and my only line of retreat. I was terrified. I have never felt so alone or exposed. It's a horrible feeling of complete helplessness. Spielberg had not yet made that American Werewolf in London, which wouldn't come out until the following year, or I might have likened it to a scene from that. I quickened my pace, but only ran into a barbed wire fence. I swore under my breath because I knew that the wire was there, but I had been too distracted to look out for it. My jeans were torn, I was cut up a bit, and I had to struggle free, but get free I did. Hurdled the wire and ran for my life. It was a meadow, but filled with bushes, some of them quite large. I heard the growling again, then a howl. Not the loud yodeling howl of a werewolf movies, but a much deeper, yet distinctly dog-like howl. It was closer this time, much closer. I didn't even dare look around for fear of what I might see. There was a loud crash from a bush right beside me. I could see the bush moving violently, like something was tearing its way through, and I ran like a madman, hitting everything that lay in my path. I fell, I got up, tripped again, and so it went on, blundering into the pitch black of a moonless night. Brambles tore at my flesh, bushes hit me in the face, and then I reached the far side of the field. I ran into the corresponding line of barbed wire. I was halfway ready for it this time, though that didn't help much. I still got cut, but I didn't care. I took off my jacket. I tried to bundle over. It didn't work. The wire was still too sharp and coming right through the material. I pulled my jacket away, somehow still finding time to worry about losing my rail fare and cigarettes. I tried every way I could. I've been in similar situations. You still think of things like this because that's just human nature. Even if you're in you feel like you're in a life or death situation. I tried every way I could to get through that wire, but I think the devil himself must have put it there, as if knowing this day would come. I tried to vault over at a post but couldn't manage it, nor could I lift the wire and slither through because the individual strands were meshed too tightly together, and there was no time to try and climb it, so I knew that to pass over that wire quite literally meant the difference between life or death. So I just ran straight at it, threw myself into the air, and came crashing down in a heap onto the grass on the other side. I scrambled to my feet, and quickly found myself on the tiny road that led to the rail station. I ran at an ungodly pace, the kind of tortuous velocity that can stop the heart of even the youngest, fittest athlete. But then, they don't have something like this coming out of the dark behind them. Breathless and sweating, I arrived at the station. There is a house right there beside it. But there were no lights on, no car in the drive, nobody home, nothing. I looked back up at the lane. I would have broken in. I looked back at the lane and I could see how now a huge black mass moving slowly against the tree line. Darkness. Sorry, you said darkness, not tree line. My bad. It stopped down onto all fours like it intended to pounce. I ran onto the station platform, suddenly bathed in its diminutive lighting. In the far distance, I could see the light of Norwich train heading my way. The light was comforting, I bet, despite the creature's proximity. There's always this primal religious feeling in human beings that bad things don't approach the light. And that may well have been true, except the lights failed. Right then and there, the entire row, all along the platform, simply blinked out. I'm telling you guys, they are flesh and blood creatures, but as a Christian, as a person who's researched this topic for years and years and years and years, the book of Enoch described how the angels descended on Mount Hermon. And then from there, the angels that fell with Satan, from there it describes on how they genetically tampered the DNA level, beasts of the air, the water, on the land, within the land. I believe that these things are a product of that genetic tampering. And since it's angelic, they're going to have some abilities that we don't understand, but we can see. So that thing that happened with the electricity, that happened with JD and I, and that was one of the most terrifying things that I've ever encountered. And I've almost lost my life. I almost lost the life of my baby. That moment right there, knowing that a creature that's hunting me and him has the power to manipulate electricity is like one toke over the line, man. This is like, it's a horror movie in actual reality. Yeah, and so I understand the terror. And to not panic, it takes everything within you. So thank God I had a combat veteran with me, that told me to get it together. I'm not allowed to panic unless like the thing is crashing through the window, So he couldn't believe it. The lights went out. The only light remaining was that illuminating station timetable. Then a few seconds later, that too flickered out. Of course. I didn't know if this was the same phenomenon the creature had exuded in our first encounter when it messed up the street lamps, or if these things timed out at midnight. Doubt it. Didn't know, didn't care. I could hear its footsteps now, crunching over the gravel car parked beside the station. I wondered if I would be better to run down onto the tracks, but I didn't like how that idea looked inside my mind, and got the feeling that was probably exactly what it wanted me to do. So I started out hoping and praying that the last train would get here before that thing did. And I'm gonna interject here again, saying that if it wanted to, Jack, that thing could have closed the gap between you. I don't care if it was 1,000 yards. If it wanted to be right up on your grill, it would have been there in like 2 steps, because these things can not only jump 40 feet into the air, I mean, it sounds like ridiculous, but it's true. People have seen it. I've seen these things do incredible things. So it could have if it wanted to. I think these things just are showing humanity right now what they can do. They're literally telling people, I can kill you right now if I wanted to, but I won't. It's showing you what it can do until that magic moment when God says, all right, unleash your wrath upon humanity. That's what I think. But anyway, sorry. Getting back to your awesome story. This is unbelievably awesome. So it was waiting for him to run down the tracks. He didn't do it though. He managed his fear. It's awesome. I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I was all by myself. I stood at the rail's edge, watching the distant lights grow bigger until they filled the platform, the train already slowing. Even so, I knew that creature could easily have beaten it to me, see? Had it really wanted to. It was right there beside me, and it could have lashed out at any time. Instead, it contented itself with snarling away in the darkness. See, I didn't even read that part yet. I had not even read this. I haven't. I wanted it to read it for the first time on air, and that's what I'm doing because I had a feeling. So, okay, cool. So instead, it contented itself with snarling away in the darkness, its every threatening movement over the gravel underscored by that deep, hideous growl that seemed to turn you inside out every time it went through you. It has been known to land people in the hospital before. The guard rolled back the door of the train. He was straining to see me with all those lights out, and I feared for a moment he might not even notice me and then signaled the driver to carry on. I yelled out and started waving my arms. Mercifully, the train stopped. I dived inside, screaming something like, "For God's sakes, what are you waiting for? Ring that bell and get us out of here, will ya?" The guard looked up and down the platform. He didn't even seem in any great hurry to close the door, and so I was tempted to just push him out of the way and close it myself. I could tell he knew what I was thinking. He closed the door then. He looked at me like I had gone mad, sort of shook his head and wandered off, leaving me still slumped in the guard's van, shaking like a leaf. I got up and slumped into the seat, wondering what had just happened. This was the second time in just a few months I had been pursued by the same creature, or one just like it. Why had it not attacked when it had the chance? I already gave my thought on that. There's more to that thought too, and I'll bring it up to you at the end. Why had it not attacked when it had the chance? I had been a sitting duck out there in the meadow. Either time I was trapped by barbed wire or stood there alone at the station. It must have known it was me, perhaps even before I left the pub, and certainly within seconds of doing so. Was it in human form then? Who's to say? Jack, what makes you think it was ever in human form? You know what I mean? Does this thing know me or know of me? Or was it something much more otherworldly with a true explanation hidden within some dark aspect of the spiritual world? That's what I'm leaning to. All of this happened around the same time the infamous Rendlesham Forest UFO incident, which, by the way, UFOs are, I think, angel technology too. This is all spiritual. All the answers are found in the Old Testament, actually New Testament. Jesus he talks about demons all the time. And they even talk about the disembodied spirits of these, they're called Raphaim. These are when those giants, the men of renown, you know, the giants are the products of the angels mating with the women, and that's why God flooded the earth. So when those giants died, they don't go to heaven or hell. They're called Raphaim, and they are the demons that we have to contend with to this day. You know, they don't like the fact that we are human beings born on this plane of physicality or whatever, and that one day we have the chance to make a choice, or right now we have a chance to make a choice whom we will follow, who we will serve, good or evil, God or ourselves, basically, and we will one day sit at the right hand of God. They don't like that. They will never get their chance back again. These demons, these fallen angels have lost it. They rebelled against God, the creator of everything, and they will never get their chance back again. So they don't like us. They hate us. They want to kill us. They want to confuse us. So I would later wonder, it would be many years before anyone heard of the Skinwalker Ranch or made any connection between UFOs and werewolves. You know, these things want to show you what they can do. And by the way, in dark witchcraft and Satanism, when they do a human sacrifice, even going to Aztec, Mexico, anybody who does a satanic human sacrifice, the best time to do it, the best time to kill somebody and drink their blood is when their blood is filled with fear and adrenaline. What do you think they're doing? They're getting intoxicated off of it. It's like a drug. So he said these were the thoughts racing around my disheveled head at age 18. Not all the perspective I have now after endless years of soul searching, study and meditation of a shaman. He would encounter these creatures again, I'm sorry. And I still do, but never in quite such a dramatic fashion, nor at such a physical level, although I very recently went to my back door and distinctly sensed the same present. It's the extreme quiet, an unearthly stillness to the night that feels like the earth stops spinning and all life in the natural world is holding its breath. I know exactly that feeling. And Jack, I hope that, my thoughts that I offered while reading this letter, maybe it's just food for thought for you. Certainly it's my opinion, but it's also my faith too. I've spent many years, decades even, pondering the same things as one who's had many encounters that I haven't even shared with my audience yet. And, I will. I'm writing a book about it, but I thank you so much, Jack, for sharing, and everyone listening. I pray that you study these matters for yourself and know that there are answers in the Bible too. They are actually there in the Bible about these specific things, and going to the book of Enoch is not a bad thing, because Jesus Christ quoted the book of Enoch. All our Old Testament dudes, it was referred to many times. It's not a bad thing. Just want to say God bless, and thanks again, Jack, for sharing your tale, and I will be back reading other people's accounts and sharing some of my own very soon. Take care. God bless. Bye.